Like her music says, it's a surprise. She's walking in stride, and it's going to be joyful.
Joyful. Ain't that it? Look at you putting it all together with a nice little bow for all of us.
Got some friends here with a podcast that I really think you need to check out, because even if you don't think you're a fan of classical music, you're going to learn something about classical music, and you're going to learn something about musicians that you might not know anything about, that you might never have heard of, because of my friends Angela Brown and Joshua Thompson. They host Melanated Moments in Classical Music, and it just started their 5th season of this podcast, and produced right here in Indy. First of all, it's good to see y'all. How are you?
Good seeing you. Real good.
Good to be here.
5 seasons now. So whose idea was this podcast to begin with? Where did this come from?
Oh, wow. Now, I say that I was added on, but this was really a gift that laid like a submissive puppy in Joshua Thompson's lap. And Joshua, I'll let you tell the story.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I think this was back in 2019. I was really fortunate to have earned a performance residency at the Eskenazi Hospital, and that was made possible through the Miriam Tobias Music Program. And at the time, the CEO of Classical Music Indy would go to my concerts in the lobby, and I would always speak to the audience and explain to them who they're hearing and what is significant about it. And she said, I could listen to you talk and play all day long. What would you think about continuing this series, but just in a different format as a podcast? And I said, well, okay, we can do that, but the only way I will do it is, it's like, we need a big name, an international name. And I was like, if we're gonna do this, I want Angela Brown to be my co-host, otherwise it's not gonna happen. And she was so gracious and so willing to be a part of it, and that is kind of the origin story of Melanated Moments in Classical Music.
And this is something that is your lives already, not just the music, but putting forth Black and brown people in classical music in a field where we don't never before traditionally thought of Black and brown performers in that field.
Absolutely. So I'm a concert pianist or a classical pianist, and also a big nerd. I'm a music sociologist. And the reality is there are so many names, and we're pulling from composers and musicians that go back 3 and 4 centuries up to the present day. So the music has always been there.
And the performers
Yes.
have always been there. But they just didn't always get the shine or the opportunity. It was very few. They got the opportunity to have access to stages of the world. And Melanated Moments in Classical Music is here to right that wrong, and to shine a light on those performers, those underheard performers that are out there doing it big time, at a high level, but just don't get a chance to have that shine. So we're giving that opportunity to them.
Oh, and it is. You learn so much, and especially coming from the world that a lot of us come from. Like for instance, me, white kid growing up in the rural South, the only Black opera performer, classical performer I'd ever heard of when I was a kid was Leontine Price.
Well, that's a plus.
It is a plus, but the only reason I had heard of Leontine Price was she did a public service announcement. I can't even remember what it was about.
I know what it was about.
I'm
It
sure-
had
of course
to
you
be
did, yeah.
the United Negro College
It
Fund.
was. It certainly was.
Reaching for a dream that spells tomorrow. Another generation's coming on. The United Negro College Fund helps turn dreams into achievements.
That aired on TV, and I'd never seen Leontine Price, never heard of her. But it went years, even with me immersed in the music world, being a band nerd, band kid, you still did not hear about these performers and composers until now. And I think, I don't know if 2020, of course, I know you talked about the social reckoning that we had in 2020 as part of the podcast. Has that, the idea came before 2020 for the podcast, but has that provided an impetus to really be able to share these stories and to share them more?
Well, we actually had our first season in the can in 2019, and
Right.
then the podcast.
Everything happened.
Everything happened,
Yeah.
and so everybody was just sitting there waiting to be entertained, and we were like, "Hey, we got it for you." But
And I think absolutely there's been a resurgence and a huge focus nationally and internationally to elevate these contributors and these voices. So the timing was perfect. What we loved about it too was, you know, when we were in lockdown and in quarantine, just how many people were reaching out from around the country and around the world saying, this is a fabulous resource. Have you heard of this person? And we got to introduce and meet people everywhere who were doing exactly what we do, but just didn't have the unique platform that we do. And so we are never one to miss an opportunity at all. And it's just been really nice because there's this wonderfully welcoming community out there of Black musicians, conductors, composers, and you know, they're just people.
Exactly.
You know?
And what I love about it is that we not only introduce and reintroduce some of the musicians, the Black musicians that are living and dead, but we get to bring on some of the new bright shining stars that are making it in the classical world today. So it's a big melange, and we're all in that party together.
Yes, we are.
A melanated melange, as somebody said. So they're in their 5th season, and I must, first of all, I guess I'll credit Joshua Thompson's alma mater, DePaul University, which we neglected to talk about DePaul the last time you were here, because my kid's at DePaul.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
all right.
she's a music performance major at DePaul.
Love to hear it.
I
Love to hear it.
I swear, every time we go there, every concert we go to, and we just went to one this past Sunday, where the university strings, the orchestra strings, Maestro Orsina Smith conducting, and but every concert we go to, they always make sure to have a composer of color on the program, and they had one. Matter of fact, you talked about it in episode 1 this season. Coleridge Taylor Perkinson.
That's right.
They had one of his sinfoniettas on the program.
Yes.
So, and again, we'd never hear of these people were it not for people like the folks at DePaul making the effort to do that, and Melanated Moments in Classical Music.
I think that's one of the really exciting things that maybe we did not anticipate, like having 5 seasons. But this is actually being used as a resource on college campuses and music education. University of Washington and several other places are using this as actual curriculum. And that's what we need. That's how you get these pieces on big stages around the world. It starts in that education from K through undergraduate and graduate. That's where the real work is, and for me personally, that's how I know we're checking those boxes and we're doing what we're supposed to do and making an impact. So
Each one, reach one.
Yeah. And it gets the music and the idea for this music and the idea that you can play this music in the heads of young people when they're this high.
Exactly.
You know,
and it's just music.
It is just music.
It doesn't matter what it's clothed in.
Right.
But we just want to bring awareness that we too sing America. We too play America. We too compose and conduct America. So it doesn't matter. It's all music, and it's all good music. It just should be programmed.
Okay. Now, 2 episodes into season 5. What do you got coming up the rest of this season on the podcast?
Ooh, we've got some fun stuff. We're really excited to take a big feature on the organizations around the country that are doing the work to elevate and promote these works. And so we've got the Coalition of African Americans in the Performing Arts, also known as CAPA, and they're out on the East Coast in Baltimore. We have the Harlem Chamber Players out of Harlem, New York, so we're excited about that. And on the first episode, we interviewed a phenomenal flautist. His name is Adam Eccleston, and he works with—
Just listen to that today.
Yeah,
yes.
it's great.
Yeah.
And he works with All Classical Portland in their new recording inclusivity project, which is exactly that. An entire album that's accessible to everyone of unrecorded masterworks from composers of African descent, and it's just brilliant. So it's great to highlight the individuals and the pieces. If you want more resources on who is doing the work, how are they doing it, how do we get in touch with them, we're filling that gap by letting you know who else is knocking it out of the park outside of Indianapolis.
I didn't think about that. I bet a lot of those have not been recorded, have they?
None of them have.
Wow.
None of them have.
That's astonishing. So check it out, Melanated Moments in Classical Music. Wherever you get your podcast, you'll find it there. Just search for it, and you'll get to hear from the marvelous Angela Brown and Joshua Thompson. Before we go, every time Josh is here, we got to do the socks.
Hey.
If you don't know, Josh performs in his socks.
Yes.
He is Sock Joplin, and today we have what?
I went with the little, my brother got me these, so I went with the little old school. We're doing the Nintendo Game Boy.
Oh, nice.
And so if we remember those
That
of
is
us of a
nice.
certain age, a little throwback. What
Yeah,
you
a
got
little
today?
throwback. I've got
Oh, wait.
I've got the Indiana Broadcasters Association. You can't buy these, so you have to know folks to
Gotta
get
be in the know. Gotta be in the know.
Joshua Thompson, Angela Brown, check them out. Melanated Moments in Classical Music. And it's 5th season now, so a whole lot of listening. You can just set it up and binge for a while and learn all about musicians, composers that you probably have never heard of before. Good to see you guys. Appreciate
Nice
you coming by.
seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you.